Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Comic Shop Talk on the Late Night Collectors community. I'm your host, Nico, and joining with me today, as always, my co-host, Chris. How you doing?
Hey, not too bad. How are you?
A little pissed off, as you know. Dealing with, I don't even know why I'm putting this mic here. It doesn't really fucking matter because the mic's not working, apparently, right now. So, no, just dealing with some audio issues, as always, over here as Casa Nico. But here we are, once again, to talk some comics. And we'll get through it. We'll figure it out on the back end. But always a good time to talk some comics. I'm sure that'll make me feel better. Although it was also kind of a shitty week of comics.
Spoiler alert.
Make sure to subscribe to the channel, everybody. As always, I'll put it there just for
I said like and follow to listen to us talk about crappy comics.
just for the visual there, so it looks like I'm actually using my mic. No, make sure to subscribe to the channel, everybody. I swear I'm less frustrated than this usually. And this week we're gonna be talking about the new comics that came out for the week of April 10th, 2024. As always, be forewarned, we might spoil what happened in the books here this week. We're gonna show off some of the art and go over what happened in the books. So if you're worried about getting spoiled, you can always read your books and then come back and check us out. But yeah, that all being said, Chris,
All right, let's talk comics.
let's talk some
Last
comics.
of the big beers here. Cheers.
Oh, nice. Cheers. I can really use a beer now, so I'm happy for this. All right. Action Comics 1064, Chris. First up here on the docket.
Yeah, this one came late from my comic shop, so I don't have the actual copy, but I hope it's coming in because I thought it was a pretty decent comic. I thought the art was great. I had to double check who was doing this, and it's what, Raphael Sandoval or something.
Yeah.
And I thought he really knocked it out of the park here. This is getting Action Comics back onto onto a prime time stage almost. And the story is pretty decent too. It's the beginning of the House of Brainiac. So everything's, I guess, going down here. There's a whole load of I don't know how you pronounce them, but whatever Lobo's race is, are they Zarians or something like that? And they're all coming
Zarnians?
to,
Yeah.
they're all coming down to Metropolis to, I guess, take care of business, and all of pretty much the whole super family gets abducted in those Brainiac glass jars. But just the art in this, like, there are just some of these splash pages in the beginning. There's a nice little quiet before the storm, or everybody's kind of all happy living life, and then I guess the shit hits the fan. So I'm looking forward to more.
Yeah, I like the I read this online. I liked the art on this as well. I thought that was good. I did like kind of like the cold open of like all is well in Metropolis, and then shit just happens to go down all of a sudden. But
Yeah, and it's not like
I,
just a little bit. It's like you say, that picture there. There's freaking, they're dropping an army on them or something.
I do think it was a bit cheesy though too. At the same time, where like Lois is one day off a year, which we didn't find out what the special occasions was as of yet. Maybe it was their anniversary. I don't know, but they were about to say what it was, and then all of a sudden, like they meet up with Jimmy and his girlfriend, and then all of a sudden, all this shit starts falling from the sky. Clark's like, get, duck for cover, get out of the line of danger type of thing, right? And it's just funny how like she happens to just be running into everybody on her day out, like out and about, like, oh yeah, look, it's these people. I just thought that was funny. Like
Yeah,
they went through like all the cast of characters that are currently in the book, all the Superman extended family, and Supergirl and everybody else, right? And so like, yeah, it was. But once you kind of started getting into it, they tried to make it seem like the stakes are big, and this is a big thing that's about to go down. And yeah, Superman, he doesn't look like he's in a great place by the end of this issue. So, and it looks like, who was it again? Yeah, this dude shows up who's like a fucking crazy Zarnian of some sort. And then what is it? Who was it? Was it Metallo? I can't remember. Brainiac. Yeah, Brainiac. Yeah. So I always mix those two up for whatever reason. So yeah, that who the hell knows what's gonna happen here? There's a whole bunch of Brainiacs and some Masarnians, so
yeah, and the Lobo's in the mix too. So that's always
Lobo's in the
good.
mix. Yeah, well, he hasn't showed up as of yet,
But
but
didn't they have a page of him at the end or something?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was.
Yeah, he
Yeah, there.
hasn't done anything yet, but they do show that he's in the mix. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. So what'd you give this?
I'm giving this a 4. I've been waiting for a good Superman comic for a while, and I thought this one delivered.
Yeah, I liked it. I'll give it a 3.75 out of 5 this week. Next up, we got Fantastic Four number 19. Yeah,
I
nice
thought
cover
this
on
was
this one.
cover. This cover, I don't know, it just seems to look better in thumbnails or on the computer than it does in real life. But it's still a decent cover. And that was a decent issue. You know, it's got one of my favorite artists there too, as Carlos Gomez or something. I'm not sure if he's suited for this. I think he should be doing something more to do with the Cheesecake Factory, but his skills are well utilized in this issue or in this series because he's been in here for a few issues now. It seems.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this intro of this works for him for sure.
Yeah,
Like the femme fatale, kind of like how good looking like Sue Storm's supposed to be, and this was kind of like a noir detective type of story here, and done in black and white. And yeah, what'd you think of the story though in this? Like the
yeah. I didn't
idea?
mind the story. It reminds me of like whatever Star Trek or Star Trek Next Generation would have one of their holodeck episodes. You know, where you kind of don't know what's going
Yeah.
on. Like there was no sort of lead into why they're in the past or what's all going on or how they ended up where they were. And yeah, it was a fun read. You know, it kind of really leaned into the gangster speak of the 30s and things like that. So it was a good read. I like, you know, it was nice to have a different issue, and it seemed to be all sorted out at the end. I guess there's a the cosmic cube is involved somehow, and that I guess that can warp reality. And whoever that guy has, I forget even who he was. He's wondering why everything's gone awry because he thought he had the power there for a second.
Hmm. Yeah, I really like this issue. I mean, we've come to expect these one and done type of scenarios, and half the time when they like tell the stories in this series, you don't know what kind of situation they've gotten themselves in or how they're going to get themselves out, and what exactly is occurring until like later in the issue. So I thought this was just another prime example of that. Like you said, Carlos Gomez, an artist that I've really enjoyed too. Of course, when I first really noticed his stuff was on an Exterminator series, which I was a big fan of, and I know you enjoyed as well. And yeah, so this was fun. I really liked this. I like this whole idea of this the detective kind of noir kind of scenario thing, black and white kind of flick type the stuff that they got going on here, and it makes sense with the cosmic cube and all that. So yeah, I really quite dug this, and the art was just the extra icing on top,
Yeah,
honestly, for me this
for
week.
sure.
So yeah, I thought it was good. What'd you give this out of 5?
I got a 3.75.
I'm gonna go for 4 out of 5 on this one. Yeah, because we'll swap ratings there on this one for the first 2 books out here. All right, next up we got Transformers number 7 this week, and
Guess
this
we're
is
talking a
the
lot about artists this week. This is another new artist here for
I know.
Transformers, and I think he delivered. You know, it wasn't bad, and you know, it's sort of still in the same vein as the first one. Maybe not quite as kinetic, let's say, or not so many wrestling moves in there, but I still enjoyed it. I don't think it took away from the story or took away from enjoying the comic. And you know what goes on in here? We have Soundwave and Starscream sort of, I guess, vying for leadership there, and Starscream tries to be his Weasley self. Soundwave doesn't take much of it, and I guess the results speak for themselves. And then yeah, this other story here with was it Akri or I forget what her name is. What are the pink
R
robot? Oh,
RC is it?
RC? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess you get a bit of backstory from her, but yeah, I don't really care for that much. But we'll see how it goes. You know, I still think I might be in for this arc as well.
Yeah, listen, I knew Daniel Warren Johnson wasn't going to be drawing this book anymore. And, while I'm ready to accept that he's not drawing it, even though I'm a big fan of his art, I don't know. Jorge Corona, this artist that did this, he's okay. I don't think it's bad. It's just that what my biggest gripe about the art is that he puts too many small panels in his art. Like there's a lot of like small panel kind of stacking going on in this, and it's just much more different than Daniel Warren Johnson's like kind of big bombastic kind of layouts that he usually
Yeah.
does, right? So like I found between that and the word balloons being really small this issue, maybe to kind of give you like a larger scope of like his panels, like because there is definitely more of them. I'm not sure, but between those two things, it just felt off. And so it's taken a bit of an adjustment for me to get used to this new art. But hopefully by next issue, I'll settle in a little bit easier now knowing kind of what to expect from this art style and this artist now. Yeah, like see, like there's just too many panels, like I feel like going on in his stuff
Yeah.
compared to Daniel Warren Johnson, like you said, where you get like somebody like fucking pile driving somebody, it's a whole page. You know what I mean? Like so, like it's, but the story is getting bigger though, and they have a lot more story to tell. So maybe that's the reason why that choice as well, right? We're not just getting 6 issues of them fighting like we did the first arc, right? So maybe Daniel Warren Johnson is kind of changing it up and knowing that he's writing for a different artist other than himself now, right? So yeah, because there's some good pages like this looked pretty awesome. Like yeah, it's not that I'm not a fan of the art; it's just different, and it's an adjustment period for sure. So yeah, so we'll see what happens with next issue, but I'm still in 100%. Like you said, I'm still in for now. I think the story's still good. I just yeah, it was just it's gonna take me a little bit, I think, to get switched off of the DWJ art. What'd you give this?
I got a 3.75.
I gotta give it a 3.5 just because I was a little bothered by it, but again, not bad, not bad. Okay, the Scorched 28, Chris.
Let's see, Scorch 28. So still following, I guess, the Scorch team now that they're powered or they've been depowered. And this issue here, I think it sort of explains who they're up against. This guy, I forget what his name is, but he's the leader of the agency, and it's, I guess, a government agency that's pretty much out to rid the world of supernatural sort of, I guess, heroes or capes or whatever they call them in here. And he's kind of got some grotesque experiments going on in the basement of this agency. I think they have like a female haunt that somehow they put together, and then that other one that you just saw there. They're trying to test them out to put them up against this Scorch team, which I don't see why they're having such an issue now that these people don't have any powers. But either way, I guess the she spawn or Jessica, she has some sort of connection to him. Supposedly she worked for him, and he's just trying to get her back into the fold or kill her if she doesn't. So the Scorch team thinks they're on to this new agency that has been kind of stalking them for a while. So Scorch feels like they're on the offense, but literally in reality, it was just a trap set for them. And we'll see where that goes. I think at the end of the issue, this agency sort of unleashes their new hunters or their new villains to try and stop the Scorch. So that's not too bad. I think it's a lot easier to understand now. So it's not so much of the heaven and hell and millennial old families and like I felt it was more like Game of Thrones before, where this is just more back to more of a street level sort of comic where you just got the government trying to fight these the vigilantes, which I don't mind. I
Nice.
give it yeah, like a 3 points. I'll give it a 3.75. I got that. I think that's Serge Sokovia. Is that his name? His art's always killer.
Yeah, yeah, he's good. Next up we got I got Dark Spaces Dungeon number 5, which is the conclusion of this miniseries by Scott Snyder and Hayden Sherman on art. I quite really enjoyed this series. I think I'm gonna double. I think I'm because I read this one online. I think I'm gonna pick up the trade of this to have for the shelf once it actually gets released. This was really good, and I thought they stuck the landing totally. And I honestly like this is probably one of the better things I've read from Scott Snyder in a while. And I feel like now, since he's been doing these independent books after he left DC a couple of years back, And I heard that there's news going around now that he might be coming back to DC to do like their Ultimate style line of books. Apparently, that's going to be like the Marvel Ultimate Universe or something. I don't know if you heard about that, Chris. But there's rumors going around that he's going to return to DC and helm a line of books. Maybe that he's not all writing, but something like almost like a Hickman type of situation, I guess, or
Yeah.
something like that. But anyways, that being said, I think if you guys did not check this out and you were a fan of Scott Snyder, even more so like of his horror comics that he did outside of DC, I just think this was excellent. Like so but you know, if you don't want to get spoiled by what I'm gonna say, maybe jump ahead. You find out who the killer is of the guy that the guy who basically kidnaps people and sticks them in these dungeon apparatuses. Basically, at the end of last issue, it looks like he tracked down the location of this guy, and then he proceeds to take him down in this issue. But then I guess the bit of the swerve that happened in this issue, which I kind of somewhat saw coming, it was something that passed through my head the last couple of issues that possibly the guy, the father of this kid that he's been helping this whole time, was going to turn out to be the killer. And it was him, but the way that it kind of unfolded still in the story, I think was still well done. So it wasn't like, oh, I saw that coming from a mile away type of moment. It actually was told very well still, and it didn't ruin it for me whatsoever. So they end up taking out some guy, I guess, that he had that was like a patsy. Like he had like different people that he had set up that are basically doing his bidding to help him around the world with these dungeons and shit like this. So the guy that he ends up tracking down and taking out in this issue, turns out it's not actually the killer, and then it turns out it's the kid's father that he's been helping this whole time that was the killer, and he basically joined forces with him with this case in order to get closer to him because he remembered him from him being a child and how he got away all those years ago. So he kind of couldn't resist, like kind of like getting in his head a little bit more and getting to know him more intimately, like he has during this miniseries. So it was actually really well done the way it all kind of played out. And then by the end of it, the cop ends up showing up at his house and he figures it all out. He figures out that it was him all along. And he's like, he sticks a gun in his face. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? He's like, I'm not the killer. And he's like, all of a sudden, like a huge grin just comes over his face. He's like, ah, you fucking figured it out, did you? Like, and then by the end of this, though, the cop, he like, I guess drugs him or something like that. And he fucking ends up once again in a dungeon at the end of this issue. So he really, it's kind of a dark ending. Like he gets bamboozled by this guy once again. So I thought this was excellent. Like I said, I'm definitely going to pick up the trade. And if you guys missed out on this, it's called Dark Spaces Dungeon. There's a few different books called Dark Spaces, and like something else. A couple of other writers have done books in this like these mini series. I guess again, he's kind of helming this kind of line of books over at IDW right now. But the one he's done two. He's done one called Wildfire, which was pretty good too, and this one's called Dark Spaces Dungeon. Yeah, so this is honestly, check it out, guys, if it sounds interesting to you, because I thought it was a really, really good, well done Scott Snyder horror story. I give this. I mean, the more I talk about it, I got to give it like a 4.25 out of 5. I thought it was really good. Then next up, we got Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, number 5. This also looks like it's wrapping up, but I think it's by next issue it's wrapping up. Another IDW horror book, actually. I guess I sense a theme going here that's been getting a lot of acclaim. A lot of people have been talking about this book. This was good. I don't think it's been as entertaining if I was going to compare the two, actually, the Dark Spaces Dungeon. I think that's actually the better of the two books that have been coming out on the same week, I think, for the most part, these IDW horror books. While this one has been good, I think it's just a bit more what I've come to expect. I mean, yeah, sure, he's doing it with animal people in a town, which is, I guess, the kind of the difference of this type of, like, you don't normally see a horror themed book like this with this type of style of art and this kind of thing. So that's why I think it's a little bit, not the expectations of readers, and that's why I think people have been kind of like, what the hell is this book? But in terms of the story being told and the tone and everything else, like I said, this is basically just like Dexter to me with a bear character. So it doesn't feel that original in that sense, although it has been highly enjoyable throughout. I just think I was a little bit less impressed with one issue to go of how the story is going to wrap up. So with one more issue to go, I don't think this is going to be something I'll grab the collection of, but I think it's good nonetheless. It is worth checking out. Maybe if you can you can read this digitally online, or you can borrow the book from the library or something. Maybe go that route with it. Yeah, the big thing in this issue is that this bear is still on the run. The person who's the killer, and then there was this whole scene where the bear goes into the woods and it sees like two actual bears that are not like, I don't know, people bears in this world, like actually going at it in the wild. And he's like, oh yeah, it's almost like he's like turned on by like watching these bears and the raw humanity of or like Animal Kingdom, kind of like more so like of the bears going at each other, and meanwhile this person's on the run, so he goes back to the town. I guess either to try to take down the guy that's framed him, even though he is also a killer, or I don't know, come to terms with who he is and I don't know, maybe turn himself into the cops. I'm not sure what's going to go on, but there's going to be some sort of final shit that goes down next issue, it looks like, because the bear is now returned to the town where it just ran away from and has been labeled as a murderer, right? So we'll see what happens. I get a 3.75 out of 5. And then next up, what do I got here? Phantom Road number 10. With one of the most boring fucking covers I've ever seen. I don't know what this cover is. It's literally just one color, and it's the color of the light from this creature in the book, but even so, it's literally just these two people and the two characters of this book just standing there. I was like, I guess he ran out of time, this artist, or something.
He left space for some remarques, maybe,
Yeah. So, this is a good issue, though, despite the cover. I still really like this book. Still really fucking weird. And this is one of those books where it is a compliment to say you don't even need to know what's going on all the time, but you're still gonna enjoy this book. There's some books where we come on here and we talk about them in length, and I don't know what the fuck's happening in the book, and I'm confused, and it's not an enjoyable experience. And I try to pretend sometimes where I'm like, oh yeah, I totally get what's going on. And meanwhile, I have no idea what's going on. But this is you don't know everything that's happening, but it's still really intriguing and interesting every time you read it. So basically that little weird alien creature thing, whatever, it hatched out of that whatever cocoon or whatever the hell they had in the back of their truck. And it kind of led the way almost down the kind of parted the Red Sea, the way it just floated out here, and all these weird zombie type people just kind of let it go through in this issue. And then you're learning a little bit more about the backstory of the cop, and she uncovers some shit that's connected to her past by the end of this issue as well. And these guys are just still along their journey along this road in this weird place. And the one difference is, though, this guy attacks the car, shoots at it with a shotgun. Some other guys out here in whatever plane of existence that they're in right now, and he ends up he attacks him on the road with the crowbar, and and then he's just like, I was trying to stop that thing. He's like, I need it back or whatever, and he points at the little creature, right? So and then that's kind of where we end with their story, and then the cops uncover some sort of weird place that's kind of like one of those gas stations with the bears that's underground of some building she was investigating that's somehow connected to her past. So like I said, there's not I don't understand everything that's going on. The story is still unfolding, but it's well done and interesting, and I always have a good time with this. And I actually think this is one of the better issues. I give this a 4 out of 5 this week. So
Nice.
I know I said at the start it was a really shit week, but there's still some bangers amongst all these ones. All right, Chris. Let's see here. Let's talk about we're going into the X-Men corner now. Got a bunch of X-Men books coming up here. We got Invincible Iron Man number 17 here, which is Iron Man, but also basically an X-Men book lately. What'd you think of this, Chris?
Yeah, I got my copy here somewhere. Where'd it go? There we are. Yeah, got the SDA cover there. I wasn't too thrilled with this issue. At the beginning, there's a lot of, I guess Tony Stark sort of in a bad way there after Fei Long took down his Sentinel Buster. And I didn't really like those flashback scenes with, I don't know even who he's flashing back with. Was his dad there or something? Or I don't know what I have enough time for that stuff. I kind of didn't mind when they did actually get to the Fei Long battle, and now he's crying foul that the AI is they were fooling me the whole time, and now they're not responding, or his Sentinel busters aren't out of control. But of course, this all leads into bringing our big man at the end. So I guess all's well that ends well. But I think it was a lot of issue just to basically bring the big guy at the end back together. And I guess having those two guys fight, it's something to look forward to, or fight together at least, is something to look forward to.
Yeah. So two things I gotta say about this issue. One is that I didn't like this artist. I don't know where the fuck this artist came from. I don't feel like they've ever drawn on this book, or at least in a long time. So like this was like a weird shift in art style. This issue all of a sudden, it was fine, but like I feel like I was just digging what the other artists were bringing to this book, and then unless I'm wrong, unless I'm mistaken, I don't recognize this artist on this book before. What's the name of the artist on the book? There, you have it in front of you. I don't have. I read this in line online, so I
Is
don't
it
know.
Zurcher?
Oh yeah, this is Patrick Zurcher. Okay, so Patrick Zurcher, as far as I know, hasn't been on this book before, and I don't mind Patrick Zurcher sometimes. So I don't know why. I don't think he fit like just jumping on suddenly here. I think it was more that than anything because Patrick Zurcher's worked with Jerry Duggan. The last time I saw Patrick Zurcher work with him was on Savage Avengers, which I'm a huge fan of that series. But I don't know here. It kind of didn't seem like great just popping in for this one issue.
Yeah.
And then the other part was as soon as they started doing like more of like all this like Toady inside of his head moments, I'm like, oh, Chris is not gonna like this, just because I know that's not something you dig so much when they do that kind of stuff. Like I from talking comics with
Yeah.
you for this long, I literally had that thought while reading this issue. I'm like, oh, he's not gonna like this, but as soon as it becomes too cerebral and too like fucking phony baloney head like shit, like him fighting his demons. I'm like, oh no, he's not gonna like any of this stuff. Which I didn't love it either, to be honest. Actually, in this issue, you're right. This is like a weird place to go. Suddenly, the story has not been like this whole time, and then all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, that tracks for an Iron Man story because he obviously has a lot of issues. He's battled tons of demons in his personal life in this, like, that's part of what makes Iron Man interesting. But like, and the last run was kind of like that. I remember he didn't love all
Yeah.
that shit, but towards the end of the run, right, the Cantwell run. But
Yeah.
then like it was weird that he kind of this happened here all of a sudden because that was never been the tone of this title, I feel like, right? So it kind of was at the start a little bit when like he lost all his mind, but once it became like
Yeah. Once it went to like an Iron or an X-Men book,
yeah.
they're rolling. Now they're, I don't know, backpedaling or something.
Yeah, but that was cool at the end, though. I will say
Yeah.
that, like that was awesome how he showed up, right? Like, and I guess the last issue of Resurrection of Magneto, I think, came out this week, so it tracks, like in terms of like.
Yeah. Well, I ended up reading that comic just because of this.
Oh, did
On
you?
the other
Oh, okay.
yeah.
No.
It's the only one I read, so I can't really comment on the whole story because I feel like if you want to talk about Magneto, I thought he'd be, pissed off for being re-resurrected. Maybe they addressed that while he was in the mutant heaven or something. But basically, that last Magneto, he's saying, "Oh, I shouldn't be a coward. If I got this gift, I should face it. And how am I going to face it as a hero or as a villain, whatever?" So I guess he's taking the hero route for now.
Okay.
But anyways, for this Iron Man, I give it a 3.5. Yeah, 3.5. Looking
Okay.
looking forward to more in the next issue, though.
Same 3.5 for me as well. Yeah, there was a couple of things I didn't love about it, so I had to give it that. But yeah, it's been good, and we'll see what the conclusion brings this next issue. And then Weapon X-Men number 2, Chris.
Let's see. I picked this one up as well. Wasn't too keen on the first one, but this one here, it had its moments there. I guess they go into a bit of history of the Fat Wolverine, or I don't know what you want to call him, the Fat Logan, and how he ended up like that. And it's a pretty sad story there. I guess whichever world he was in, Jean Grey loses her powers, and then I guess her and Scott have to split up because Scott, still feels he has to lead the X-Men. So then Wolverine, he goes, well, I'll leave the X-Men too. And then he takes some sort of a, mutant inhibiting or mutant erasing gene or some elixir. So he loses his powers and he just becomes a fat slob. And then they're both fat slobs, and then they realize that they don't like each other being fat slobs, or she
Yeah.
feels he's turned his back on on heroing, and she regrets him or she resents him for that, and then he might resent her from because he did all this for her, and then she still doesn't like him. So I like that bit of the story. That kind of really, I guess, struck a chord with me or something. And this world that they're into, I guess it's the Phoenix there. It's her home world. I guess they tried to play up some awkward moments there where I guess G or Scott is married to Madeline Pryor, isn't he? And then you have some Wolverine. You got a happy Wolverine there. I guess he ended up marrying somebody. Has a couple of kids running around.
Yeah.
So it seemed like kind of a happy world that they were going to be going to stick their nose in and mess things up, which they do. And but of course it's whatever 4 issues they're trying to catch this onslaught, and he just splits off to another world, and the chase is on again.
Yeah, I dug this too for the reasons that you said. They're actually like it seems like every issue they've been delving into the past of one of the Wolverines on the team. I love all the zombie Wolverine jokes that they've had
Yeah,
throughout this series, and yeah, like it's unexpectedly has some like down to earth, more serious stories for these people. I mean, there's the whole thing with Jean in this issue too about her relationship with what could have been in her world. With and like you said, you got to see the Earth X. That's that fat Wolverine. Like that's where he's from. Like
yeah,
that kind of storyline. I really actually have enjoying that more so than this stupid onslaught story that's going
yeah.
on
There's
in
one
here.
they're taking a back seat to all that stuff, and I'd rather kind of follow more of these other stories.
Yeah, so I unexpectedly enjoyed it as well, and I think I actually enjoyed it more than the first issue as well.
Yeah,
This one, so
I
yeah,
think
I
yeah,
mean,
I think I like this world that they were in a bit better, but unfortunately, the next issue they're going to be in a different world again. So we'll see what they
yeah,
got.
yeah. So what'd you give this?
I'll pop it a 3.75 just because I liked it a bit more than the last one.
Same, yeah, 3.75 out of 5. Then quickly here, I got a couple more. I ended up reading here. Ultimate X-Men #2. I liked the first issue, not as really an X-Men book, but as a issue, I thought it was interesting. I liked the art. It kind of had like a horror kind of like tone to it. And then I didn't know, unbeknownst to both of us when we talked about the first issue, because I know Chris had read the first one at least at that time too. We kind of didn't know how in any way how it was an X-Men book because it didn't feel like one. The only thing was, which I guess we didn't pick up on at the time, is this girl is supposed to be Armor, who was like a
Yeah,
character
I
that
didn't even
has
know
like,
who Armor is in the X-Men world. So
yeah, no, she's not like a super well known character. I know who she is, but because she's been on more of like the Young Avengers type, the Young X-Men type of teams and stuff like that. So like, I'm aware of her, but again, like I didn't understand that that was supposed to be her in the first issue, and like even though they showed her with that pink kind of like
yeah,
armor around her, it just didn't click with me for whatever reason. So then when I heard about it after the fact, I was like, oh okay. And then this issue, she meets a girl who I guess is loosely Storm, essentially. Like it's a girl that has like weather type of power. So yeah, it's Storm. She kind of looks like Storm, but I mean, still, it kind of has like this still horror Japanese kind of like folktale kind of like vibe to it, or whatever you want to call it. At least that's how it comes off to me, like almost like I don't want to say like a Junji Ito manga because it's not that fun. Well, there's definitely moments like in terms of like his stuff. Like there's certain imagery in this that's kind of creepy, like a horror manga, like this shit, like right here, and some of the Japanese kind of things. But like other than that, like it's very does not feel like an X-Men book, but it's definitely original in that same sense. But this actually wasn't as great of an issue I thought as the first issue. This kind of like by the time I was done with it, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. What this is going to be like, and it's kind of what I had expected from Peach Momoko. But if you liked her Demon Wars stuff, then I think this would be right up your alley. For me, and I think Chris too, like we had sampled some of that stuff, and we didn't stick with any of it as far as I know, right? Like the Demon Wars stuff, you didn't love that
yeah.
stuff, right?
I don't
Yeah,
even see
so
why this is part of the Ultimate universe. It doesn't. It's like so disconnected from the Ultimate universe. It seems like
yeah.
they're just she had this story here. They're just trying to shoehorn in somewhere, And they
Yeah.
okay, well, let's make it Ultimate then.
Yeah, and there's like a villain at the end here, I guess, possibly the emergence of a villain, but I think that the art, I mean, I've always like liked her art, but I think it looks really good in this book in particular. Like that's the only reason I would keep reading at this point. But I mean, when we try out so many different types of books for this show, I gotta just cut it from my list, despite me actually just reading it digitally. So that's probably it for me for this one. But wasn't as good, I thought, the story in
It
this one
is
as
a
the first
popular
one.
book, though, I think.
Oh yeah, she's super fucking popular. That's what I mean. Whatever she's doing, she has her fans. I get it. Like in terms of like visually, I think as the types of stories that she's telling are not what I'm looking for in my superhero books, nor even as an Ultimate X-Men book. Like I'm not even really that big into Ultimate X-Men. I just tried this out because it was Peach Momoko, right? But like it's not enough to kind of keep me around. I feel like, but really great and like I said, I like the horror tone. I like the visuals of it. I'll actually give it just a 3.5 because I was gonna give it a 3.25, but I'll stick with a 3.5 because while I didn't love the story as much in this issue to keep me going, it has some pretty good qualities to it, and it's a well done book. It's just not what I'm looking for in a book.
Yeah.
So next up, Napalm Lullaby #2. So are you out on this or what? You just didn't
No, I
have
just didn't
time?
get a chance to read it there because it kind of got lost in the shuffle. But
Okay.
I'll probably try and catch up.
So this issue, I think I like the first issue better than this issue, but they're also because we're still trying to get a grasp of everything that's happening and what this world is by the end of the first issue. This issue is definitely introducing more of the world and more of like things to the storyline. And again, I think by a couple of issues in, hopefully we everything kind of clicks together as it sometimes does. Like kind of like how Sacrificers was at the start with Recommender
Yeah.
too. So I'm not really worried in that sense. I'm along for the ride for now, at least for the first arc. But they introduce even more things like happening in this story in this world. So when I thought, which is good. It's not like they kind of just continued on the same kind of like whatever they introduced in the first issue. There's more things they introduce, but you get introduced to these parents, these kids, the two people that we met in the first issue that stole that thing from that
Yeah.
building. They end up going back home in this, and you meet their father, and then they show you some other aspects of how the society works and the technology. And the father is like saying, "Oh yeah, what'd you go out there and find today?" And I guess like he allows these people to like his kids to go out there and like search for relics as he calls them. But I think what it is that they're searching for things from the old world, essentially, like how things used to be almost like so. And I think now that they live in this type of society where they can't have like free thought and there's like some religious aspects to things that are going on in this world, like it kind of gets into a little bit of that kind of stuff as the story goes on. So like their father is like sitting there. He's got like a flight cap on or something. He's kind of like seems like he's like an explorer or some sort. So that whole thing's kind of interesting. Like I kind of want to know more about what's going on here. So you kind of spend most of the issue with them talking to their father, and then by the end of the issue, it's like they sneak into some place that he calls like heaven essentially, but it's like some place where again I think they enter and it's like a spot where you can't have like free thought or will or something. I don't know. That's the thing. Now I guess we're gonna learn of like whatever this other part of the city is in this next issue that they introduced at the end of this issue. But they had to basically like trick their way in. Like he kind of did like almost like a Jedi mind trick. This kid by putting on like that kind of that face that he puts on. That's kind of like it like fakes his like I don't know, it throws the people off that he speaks to somehow or hides his thoughts or something. And so it's almost like he kind of like Jedi mind tricks his way into this place at the end of this issue, and they get in, and their father's like, okay, now watch what you think, watch what you say in here, like, or else we're screwed. Like, so and then they kind of cut to this double page spread of like this really cool looking like place that they're walking into at the end of the issue. So
Yeah, almost like a utopia there, but there's no free will or
yeah,
freedom of expression or something like that.
yeah. So I'm again very interested in what's going on in this book, and I have been the art's been good. Yeah, so I'm interested to see what happens next. Again, not understanding everything that's going on, but it still got me along for the ride. So I'll give this a 3.75 out of 5. Yeah, I just think that some of the events of the first issue were more action packed. I felt like, because obviously there was a getaway and there was like a robbery in the first issue. In this one, it did keep me going, but it was just focus on different things as they are introducing new concepts in this world. So very
Right.
cool. And next up, we got Wolverine 47, Chris.
We got a pretty decent cover for this one. Is that the what Weapon X or Laura? What do they call her? Anyways,
X-23.
X-23. Yeah, I got X-23 thrown down against I don't know what they call the other freaking Wolverine, but she's up there planning her escape, so it's kind of fun to see her do that sort of thing. And then just back to that story with Wolverine and Sabretooth down in the bowels of Forge's laboratory. Some good stuff going down there. I think it's a Choir or who's the guy who's the head in the box?
Quentin Quire, yeah.
Quentin, that's it. Quentin Choir. Doesn't he gets freed at the end of this or something?
Yeah. Well, I don't remember if he gets freed or not.
I thought he got a message out to somebody or something, and like the exiles, they're involved in this one here too. And
Oh
they both
yeah,
the stories all getting pulled along. And
yeah.
we got what 3 issues left for this, so we'll see what's going on. It's I think Wolverine has still been depowered because he got hit with that gun. So I think the big deal at the end of this, he's looking for or he's getting a suit or something, which is supposedly a big deal.
Yeah, you're right. He does attack the Sabretooth Quentin Quire. That's right. Like or Sabretooth. Yeah, you're right. He does do that in this. And then
Yeah, and it looks like there's some sort of some dissension in the Sabretooth gang there. Didn't they bring in some? They brought in Sabretooth's son or something to kind of to right the ship and go after Sabretooth. I guess they're not really following
another
the. I
yeah,
guess
another Sabretooth. Yeah. So yeah, it's been interesting. What'd you give this one?
I'll give it a 3.75. It was good stuff. I don't think we explained it very well, but it's still it's a good read.
Just because not much has changed, I think, in this storyline. Like it's all kind of still coming to a head, and yeah, I didn't even
Yeah.
comment on it. Actually, I'm just like, yeah, what's the reading? Yeah, I liked it fine. I think it was. I thought 10 issues was a lot for this story, and I think it is. I think it's
It's
just
starting
too
to get
much.
stretched out, yeah.
Like the first 2 issues were so shocking, like in terms of like the deaths and shit that was going on. I was like, could he keep this up? I don't know, and he kind of hasn't. So like, I think it's spinning its wheels a little bit, right? But it's okay because we have 3 issues left, like you said. Things got to happen in this next couple because I think like ever since we got to like Wolverine and Sabretooth going on their fake like missions or whatever, like
Yeah,
he's
wasn't some seed that was planted too? Like, so was it Sabretooth got swallowed up almost in like a pit again or something?
yeah, well, he purposely went looking for something there, and then since then, like you said, there's some dissension in the ranks going on. I just feel like we've been in the same place for too long
Yeah.
these last couple of issues. So we need them to. Well, now that he's woken up and after he got fucked up there and he's himself. Next issue definitely I think is gonna like you know what I mean. Like I think we're gonna start getting to the wrapping up soon here with these three
Yeah.
issues left. Like yeah, big things have to happen next issue. So I mean, I give this a 3.5 out of 5 this week, but not
Yeah.
bad. Then lastly, here we got Amazing Spider-Man number 47 this week. All right.
Yeah, once again, just happy we have that was a Todd Knock in this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't go wrong with the art in this one. I thought that was great. I got these characters with the Chasm and Hallows Eve. We kind of liked Hallows Eve on her own. I do like her on her own. I don't know if she fits in with these Spider-Man stories, but I think she looks great. They
Yep.
have the whatever Chasm. He's looking good here too. And I'm not sure if he's such a bad guy. With all he does, he wants his whole storyline is crazy though. Like the whole thing getting him, like whatever the dark web getting him captured, and it was all for nothing. Like they just basically let him go and go. What did Madeline Pryor? Well, who am I to say? Who am I to keep him captured? If you're gonna think like that, what the hell do you keep him down there all that time anyways for?
Right.
But other stuff that was going on there too is just the stuff between Mary Jane and and Peter Parker, he's kind of talking to her as he's kind of getting on a date, and I don't know. There seems to be something going on between them there, even though they try and just say that they're not friends anymore. But maybe I'm just reading into that.
What, him and Mary Jane?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely. I mean, you can't deny. I mean, the fact that now they're essentially, if anything, the fact that she actually is doing what he does now in a way, in a sense, she actually has never been closer to him because that was what always caused issues between those two, right?
yeah,
Like, so if you look at it from that perspective, it actually, yeah, maybe they will become closer as a result of this. And obviously, they have so much shared history with one another, but it's just weird seeing Peter like going on these like again he did it in a very fucking clumsy Peter Parker way in this issue, but to see him go
yeah.
on a date with another random woman or whatever was kind of odd, honestly. Like, I mean, it just you went from Mary Jane to Black Cat and now you're just dating randoms. Like, it
And
seems
then
like
wasn't it like Mary Jane's aunt that set this date up?
yes,
Like, kind of
yes.
on the slides, like, oh, you'll meet me here and meet me there. And then, when Mary Jane is like, oh, how come she didn't tell me about this? And then I guess you figured out that she might be trying to set Peter up there with somebody.
I do like Hollows Eve though. You're right. That I think that's actually a character that's stuck with me ever since even that miniseries. I thought that was pretty enjoyable. Spinning out of Spider-Man. I honestly wouldn't mind seeing her around every now and then. I think
Yeah,
it's a new character. I think that's kind of stuck. I kind of like the concept of her. I like her powers. I like how sometimes she could, she just put on a mask and turn into a werewolf or a fucking Jason like serial killer like at the start. That was kind of fun. I was just like, what?
yeah,
I remember when I started this issue, like, what the fuck is going on here? I was just like, because I was like, why is it like this? But and then of course you get some Goblin Queen
oh,
here at
yeah,
the end, right? So that's that. It's been fun. I've been liking it, and in typical kind of Spidey fashion too. You kind of got like three different plots happening at the same time right now, which I'm always a fan of. Like when he
yeah.
does
I'm,
that.
I'm, I'm kind of down for the soap opera vibe of where they're going with right now. But I
Yeah,
do hope that they kind of sort of redeem Chasm and Hallows Eve somehow, and then they can just have them run off and just kind of hide for a little while until they need to come back for something. But I don't need them in their own series or anything like that.
yeah,
Because really, at the end of the day, Chasm's Peter Parker too. Freaking give the guy a
yeah,
break.
yeah, exactly. So what'd you give this one?
I'm gonna give it a 3.75. I did like reading it, and it's been better than it's been.
Yeah, 3.75 out of 5 for me too. All right. Well, that's actually going to do it for what we read this week that we wanted to talk about here. But let's talk about what we're looking forward to next week, guys.
Let's see, I'm just trying to bring this up here. Oop, sorry about this.
No worries.
I guess the stuff coming up tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, starting to
Yeah,
come
let's
out
see. We
that.
got a whole lot of Marvel. We got Avengers Twilight 5. Looking forward to that. I'll probably read Dead X-Men. Oh, and that's pretty much it out of there. I might read the Spectacular Spider-Man. Maybe I'll look into the Spider-Boy and Spider-Woman. I've kind of checked out of those series for a while. It's been a quiet week, or it looks like it's a quiet week for Marvel.
Fall of the House of X comes out too, number 4.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, at least it's on my list. I don't know.
I don't have it on mine here, but maybe who knows? Hope so. Looking for something more there. And oh, that's not it. And out of DC, got World's Finest, but I think I'm not reading that. And Off World, has that been gone for a while? I almost forgot about that. That's where he's
Yeah.
floating around in space with
Yeah, I think
his
this
new honey or
issue's
something.
I think this issue's been a bit late. Yeah, so that
Yeah, I
Batman
don't
off
mind
world.
that, but I'll read it. I don't.
Yeah.
Not something that you needed to get right away. I got Catwoman 64, Superman 13, and Wonder Woman 8. So it looks like a bit of a better week for DC. And let's see if we got anything from Image. No, not much from Image.
Yeah, I got Cobra Commander coming from Image at number
Oh,
4.
yeah,
Yeah.
probably. If not get, at least read it if it's out.
And then a lot of the things that you said, likewise, Batman Off World number 4, Batman and Superman World's Finest, Wonder Woman 8. They got Nightwing 113, which is the first issue of his last arc, Tom Taylor's last arc on the book. Avengers Twilight 5, Cobra Commander 4, Fall of the House of X 4, and Spectacular Spider-Man 2. And like you had mentioned, there's a couple of other books I think I'm reading digitally that come out this week here. But yeah, that's it for me in terms of like the books I'm actually picking up this week. So that'll be the week of the 17th, everyone. And yeah, make sure to tune in for that. And I forgot to mention at the top of the show, but make sure to follow us on Instagram at Late Night Collectors Community as well. If you want to kind of get your sneak peeks at the books that we pick up every week that we'll be talking about on the show and show off our covers there and some, quick commentary. So yeah, make sure to check us out on Instagram as well at Late Night Collectors Community. All right, Chris, it's that time. Your favorite book of the week.
Let's see.
This was a tough week for me, honestly. Like there wasn't many standouts. I definitely enjoyed talking about some of the books this week that we talked about, but like there wasn't anything like phenomenal, I thought, this week.
Yeah.
But there was some decent stuff though. So
I think I might get mine. It's almost between Spider-Man, not Weapon X, even just that little story there would be enough to put it in contention this week. But it's, the rest of the story is enough to take it right out of contention. But I think I'm gonna give it to Action Comics. It's been a long time since that's been good, and I thought that was pretty decent there with Lobo at the end. I'm missing some. I want to see some good Lobo action here, with him and Superman mixing it up.
Yeah, let's hope so. That'd be good, right? And yeah, I'm along for the ride. I'll read that, continue to read that digitally because I did enjoy this issue. Yeah, this was good. Honestly, I think the standout I'm gonna give it to here amongst all these books this week for me. And I don't think I've ever given this my favorite of the week, although it's been consistently good throughout. And this is my last chance to give it out, so I'm giving it to Dark Spaces Dungeon number 5 this week. I just think it was a good miniseries, and I enjoyed it every time it came out. It may have been beaten out on certain weeks by what had come out, but like I said, this wasn't the strongest week, and I think he stuck the landing with this ending. So I got to give it to Dark Spaces Dungeon number 5, so by Scott Snyder and Hayden Sherman on art. So yeah, that's my favorite of the week this week. So yeah, definitely check that one out. So there you go. Check those books out, guys. We'll see you back here next week, as always. Hopefully I won't have a meltdown just before the start of the show next week. I kind of kept it together, Chris. I was good. Yeah, we got things working here. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you for everything. Thank you to Chris. Later.
All right. Cheers. Thank you.